Expo Forum and Buy-Sell Summit at the NADA show, Hague Partners founder, Alan Hague, provided an in-depth analysis of the evolving landscape of dealership mergers and acquisitions. His presentation underscored the resilience of the auto retail sector, the shifting market dynamics, and the opportunities for both buyers and sellers in the coming years. Below is a recap of the presentation and slides can be downloaded here. We will be looking at how to absorb short-term shocks and what concrete measures we can take to deal with these shocks, as well as how to deal with them in an all-Japan manner, he said. At the automaker level, cutting back on output was one theoretical option, Katayama said. It was mentioned as an example of what we should think about in order to protect the state of the automobile industry as a Japanese export base. It does not mean that production will be halted. In the meantime, the association wants the Japanese government to continue negotiating with U.S. trade authorities to win tariff exemptions. So far, such appeals have fallen flat, as the U.S. stands pat. We discussed with the ministry our response to the U.S. government, focusing on our sense of crisis as an industry, Katayama said. We call on the Japanese government to continue its efforts to ensure that Japan will be exempted from the application of the additional tariffs. Japan's industry is highlighting its contribution to the U.S. economy as a top investor in North American automotive manufacturing and its supply chain. Japan is also touting its role as the biggest foreign direct investor in the U.S. and longtime political and military ally. Since 1982, when Honda became the first automaker from Japan to build cars in the U.S., Japanese automakers have invested some $61 billion in local production there, JAMA says. Today, they build about 3.2 million vehicles a year and directly employ 110,000 people. Indirectly, Japanese brands support 2.2 million jobs across the U.S., the industry group says. At home, Japan's auto industry is the backbone of the national economy, employing some 5.5 million people. Over the years, however, Japan has become less of an export threat. Its shipments to the U.S. have gradually declined as its carmakers localize in North America. In 2006, Japan exported some 2.3 million vehicles to the U.S. But in 2023, it sent just 1.5 million. Still, Japan's domestic economy is extremely sensitive to trade disruption. Automotive exports account for about 30% of Japan's overall exports to the U.S. An economic report cited by Japan's NHK national broadcaster estimates that the threatened U.S. auto tariffs could shave 0.2 percentage points off Japan's economic growth rate. The U.S. already imposes a 2.5% tariff on imported cars, but Japan has no duties for U.S. shipments. Still, U.S. trade and industry officials have long faulted Japan for what they call non-tariff barriers to selling foreign autos here, such as onerous homologation rules. The vulnerability of Japanese carmakers to U.S. tariffs varies. Subaru is a big exporter to the U.S., shipping over 328,064 vehicles in 2024, for about half its U.S. volume. Mazda sent 235,738 vehicles from Japan, for about 55% of its U.S. sales. Toyota, the largest automaker in Japan and the world, leads the pack in terms of raw volume. It exported 538,685 vehicles to the U.S. from Japan in 2024, for about 23% of its U.S. sales. But as recently as 2019, Toyota was exporting nearly 750,000 a year. Meanwhile, Nissan exported only 131,800 vehicles last year from Japan, for just 14% of its U.S. business. Thoroughly localized Honda said it exported a mere 5,379 vehicles from Japan to the U.S., out of the 1.4 million vehicles sold stateside in 2024 as Japan's No. 2 player. Mitsubishi, the only Japanese player in the U.S. without a local plant, is the most exposed. It imports every vehicle sold stateside. Naoto Okamura contributed to this report. Title: Volvo's latest safety innovation relies on new AI technique. Content: San Jose, California. Volvo Cars' first big foray into enhancing safety came with its invention of the three-point seatbelt in the late 1950s. The next one revolves around artificial intelligence. Volvo is culling vehicle sensor data from real-world incidents and using it to reconstruct the scenarios in three-dimensional, simulated environments. A mathematical technique, called Gaussian splatting, allows Volvo engineers to make thousands of variants of a single incident. Engineers then train neural networks, which underpin automated driving software, on all the permutations in a matter of days. Kohling and Alwyn Balkans, Volvo's head of software engineering and R&D, detailed their work with the new technique at a presentation at NVIDIA's GTC showcase for AI developers here on March 19. This is a massive benefit to being able to drive a lot of efficiency and performance out of the models that you build, Balkans said. At the 2025 Auto Team America Dealers Expo Forum and Buy-Sell Summit at the NADA show, Hague Partners founder, Alan Hague, provided an in-depth analysis of the evolving landscape of dealership mergers and acquisitions. His presentation underscored the resilience of the auto retail sector, the shifting market dynamics, and the opportunities for both buyers and sellers in the coming years. Below is a recap of the presentation and slides can be downloaded here. Before, it may have taken months and driving millions of real-world miles to collect sufficient data in rare or unusual driving scenarios. But Volvo and others developing automated driving have more recently steered away from the idea that they could achieve safety by putting millions of miles on test fleet odometers. You cannot drive yourself to safety, Kohling said. Simulation has become a favored route, and the newest technique could supercharge those efforts. Gaussian splatting can meld data points from radar, LiDAR, and cameras together. You can have the full sensor set being recreated in such an environment, and that's very powerful, Colling said. Further, it can help cross-check the outputs of end-to-end AI models, he said. End-to-end models can ingest data and produce driving commands with little to no human-coded oversight. They have captivated some self-driving companies while others have warned against their use. Since the 1970s, Volvo safety researchers have undertaken painstaking efforts to collect data at crash sites. In the early days, the company said that involved measuring skid marks and other post-crash indicators. Volvo has collected more than 4.5 million real-life data events, Bakken said, and they've led to innovations like the company's whiplash prevention system. The latest efforts to reconstruct real-world data in simulated worlds builds upon Volvo's September announcement that it would create a large AI data center in the Nordics, a large-scale project that relies on NVIDIA's DGX computing infrastructure. This weekly newsletter is your one-stop shop for the latest developments at the intersection of transportation and technology. Title: Toyota can squeeze more efficiency from hybrids, R&D exec says. Content: Toyota is planning to quickly ramp up electric vehicle sales in Europe,